something I see so often is people want to train kids like adults. It drives me nuts. It drives like Jeremy Frisch nuts, who we both know. Like this, you see these kids like 8, 9 years old, and they're going through very formal plyometrics.
Joel, welcome back to the podcast.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Erica.
I think the last time you were on, we were talking about smartphones and
Mm,
kids and how it affects sport performance. Is that
yeah,
right? Last time you were on?
probably. I think I've been fired up about that for pretty much the last 4 or 5 years. So I can't imagine that didn't come up at some point.
Yeah, I know it's something you're passionate about, especially with like Chat GPT taking over. And yeah, what do you have any new thoughts on this before we dive into the plyometric topic today?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that because I think not enough coaches talk about the AI thing. Just because there's almost there's several scenarios. One is it's like it's going to rob us of our humanity. It's going to take our
Your
jobs. We're going to sit
jobs.
around getting checks and just doing whatever. And all the way to on the other end, it's like if we learn to work with it, it's going to optimize all the boring routine or mundane things. And you and I talked about this with like program writing or like athletes. If an athlete writes, write me a program, can the AI write me a program or anything like that? And I actually think it's a really good thing because I think as a coach, like your goal should be to be above the level of AI. Like you should always know what it can do, and you should always know where the human part does come in, but also where basically where programming ends and the human coaching factor starts. And I think that's something that we don't necessarily talk about a lot, but I think it's important because if you know how to work AI, you can get a lot out of it. I mean, it's incredible. Like I actually use it a lot.
I do
I use it a
too.
lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to learn how to talk to it properly because it does kind of enable you a little bit, which is
Yep.
not
Yep.
great either. But yeah,
Yep.
I use it a lot for research. Like when I'm preparing for a speaking engagement, for example, I need to pull up publications that I want to refer to. And instead of digging on Google
Oh yeah.
Scholar, I can just have ChatGPT send the ones I need, which it just has saved time. So I think just for research purposes, it can help as well. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't think in-person coaching is going to go away. I actually think it's going to
No.
make a comeback harder than remote training. I think remote training, it's kind of staying steady, but I think people crave the in-person strength and conditioning now. Have you been seeing that?
Yeah, I think for me, most of my work, most of my clients are online, and then when I am in person, it's like this like creative just release. It's like I've been writing, and I try to be very creative or as creative as one can or should be in a written program. But then you get in person, and it's just the dynamic. It's totally different. So, and I think that's the part that machines can't replace. And honestly, though, it I do think the way that we do, there's a lot like gamification, like AI and tech can really gamify training, like vertical jumps and sprints, and it's on the board, and you're seeing these things, or heart rates and things like that, and you could have a computer adjust things. But then you also think we also have this like human part that's interoception, and we feel things and we're aware of things, and to really fully do that, you actually have to get out of tech entirely. It's essentially you have to be in the nature, you have to be with people without those items, and there's no substitution either. And yeah, so that's where the in-person is so powerful, and almost like I feel like should leverage those human things even more. That's for me is a big factor. Like when I'm in person training, it's like, how can I make this the most alive, creative, not just creative just to try out crazy things, but more so like different ways to deliver like a rich sprinting, jumping, throwing, engaging. It feels like sport, like those kind of things. And it's like those are, I think, the things that the better we get at that, we are staying above that line, but the athletes also get an experience where they really want to come back.
Mhm.
And so that's been, yeah, even more of a push on my end with the in-person work.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it kind of ties into what we're going to talk about today with plyometrics, because I think there can be some creativity involved in plyo drills for both younger and our high school and college and pro athletes. And I'm finding in just traditional strength and conditioning programs that jumps, hops, leaps, different variations are not used a lot. It's usually just, oh, we're going to do a max broad jump, or we're going to get
Mhm.
on the jump mat and do a vertical jump. But I think plyos are just so underutilized by traditional strength and conditioning now. And I just want to get into why they're so beneficial, and just some drills that you're doing with your young athletes that they need at those younger ages. And then we can go to the older kids. But maybe we can just start with, what is a plyometric for all the parents and the coaches listening?
Sure. Yeah, I think that's a thing where if you're new to sports performance and sports training, plyometrics, that word will get very leveraged for pretty much anything that involves jumping off the ground. The technical term is, it's something that enhances the stretch shortening cycle. So it's going to involve some sort of drop or ballistic. So to give you a very like clear polarization, on one end, like sitting on a box with no momentum and then just using your leg muscles pushing up and jumping as high as you can, that's not a plyometric technically, because there's no momentum involved. But even if you went into the muscles, they're still going to do this little stretch shorting. They're going to cheat it, but that's technicalities. But let's just say, a seated squat jump, there's very little plyometric to that. On the other hand, if you're doing like jump roping, is a low level because it's a bounce. Hurdle hops, there's repeated momentum. You're falling and you're reloading or redirecting the momentum. So to put it, I guess the simplest is just anything that bounces and trains bounce is very plyometric. Anything that's more like seated jumps and even like real low jumps, those are less. So to me, it's almost more of a spectrum. And I think the thing that most athletes need a little bit more of is more bounce. But how you train that's where it can be specific to the populations more so.
Yeah, that's a great way to simplify it. Now, for the younger age groups, I'm talking under 12-year-old girls. It's more of that play phase, pre-growth spurt. What should plyometrics look like? Should they be really coached? Should it be more exploration and getting them really springy and twitchy?
Hey guys, just want to take a quick moment to shout out our sponsor, Simply Faster, and one of my favorite speed timing systems from them, the Freelap. I use it for my own sprint training as well as for my athletes, and they love it. It's super easy to set up, you can take it to the field on your own, and you can get accurate speed times to track your progress. Check the Freelap link in the caption below to start adding timing into your speed sessions. If you know me, you know I love my Freelap. If you're serious about speed, it's time to start timing.
Something I see so often is people want to train kids like adults. And the thing that actually, it drives me nuts, it drives like Jeremy Frisch nuts, who we both know, like this, you see these kids like 8, 9 years old, and they're going through very formal plyometrics or hurdle hop type activities. And the fact of the matter is, I talked about the definition of a plyometric and bounce, and sport is loaded with bounces. I mean, sport is loaded with all sorts of little jab steps and cuts and these movements. And so you are getting that when you play. But doing plyometrics can take what's happening and it can turn it up. It can direct it in a more linear format. It can make it more vertically challenging, dropping off higher boxes. And so with the younger kids, to me, it is all about play, and it's easy to say that, but that's, to me, it's the most fun, because for the kids, and this is the thing with females especially, the best plyometrics, in my opinion, jumping rope is, and even it's funny too, because my kids have, I bought my kids like those big double Dutch, and I have my oldest daughter's 9, my son's 7, and jumping rope is kind of more of a girl thing, but honestly, like when my son hops in on the double Dutch, I'm like, this is literally the best. Like the coordination and even a little bit of explosiveness, it's there, and it's precision and it's timing, and all those things form the basis for what you do later. So jump roping, hopscotch, and this is the thing with hopscotch is, if you just give kids chalk and say do hopscotch, they're going to make their own little plyometric course essentially, and they're going to do it on one leg, and they're going to zigzag. And it's funny because you would look at that. Honestly, if I had a kid like a 9-year-old, told my daughter, hey, make a really challenging hopscotch for me and do it on one leg, it would have more plyometric value than what I see a lot of regular plyometric training, very like kind of canned hop and stick and, do this or that. I mean, kids our plyometric athletes, because they're so bouncy, they don't have a lot of muscle yet. They move elastically. It's kind of like their movement strategy. And so they can really work that with a low level. Like, even, it's not like they're jumping off 5-foot boxes or anything. But to be honest, if you watch them on the playground, they do jump off high things. And I think that's part of it as well. So jumping rope, hopscotch, parkour is one that I think is really underrated, but it's not necessarily really accessible. Like the parkour gym in Cincinnati, I want to take my kids there, but it's like 35, 40 minutes away. So it's tough. But kids who do ninja and parkour are some of the absolute, like the movement skills you get in that, the aggressiveness and perceiving your environment and landing on unstable surfaces. To me, the plyometric value of parkour type activity it goes beyond what you can get just saying jump over these hurdles and stick it, because it's more than just an exercise. It's the technical word is it's performer environment relationship. And when you get into motor learning, you get all these like just gobbledygook words that sound like you're in class, and I'm just like, ugh. But it's so important because it's the sum of the parts in parkour movements is greater than the whole. Basically like saying, hey, jump, you're going to deflect yourself off this curved box and then land on this pipe and stick it. The sum total of what you need to perceive your environment, know how to deflect, adjust and land and hit that angle. Those are more sport-like in nature. They're alive to the point that people who get really good at that, especially with the younger age windows, you get knocked in sport or you get caught off balance in a soccer game. And that's, to my understanding, that is a big contributor to like a knee injury risk. Is it's not just the plyometric. It's, I got caught in a bad position. I'm trying to make up for it. And the more prepared you are to make up for it, it goes beyond just the muscle tissue and the spring. So those are some things that I think are really valuable for younger athletes. And then being a track coach, I also have a lot of like low hurdles for my children. And it's not true plyometrics, but we do races over hurdles. Like we'll set up like little family races and just learning like the rhythms over really low hurdles. I also think that's just a valuable lower level. It is plyometric because you are coming off of it. So those are some things I'll do as well. And so, yeah, for younger athletes, those are big ones. And then as you're 10, 11, 12, I think you can, to me, it's just turning those up. Like it's not necessarily let's start doing hurdle hops and depth jumps, because that's adult training still. And honestly, I don't think it's needed. It's more like, hey, let's take that hopscotch and jump rope and let's make it bigger. Let's make it better. Let's put some parkour elements in. Those are the things you can't make up as well later in life. So let's take advantage of that now.
Yeah, I agree. I get so sick of seeing 8-year-olds on social media going through a very rehearsed plyo. Well, I wouldn't even consider it plyo drill because it's done so slow anyway.
Yes.
Like the kids hopping over a hurdle and then going on to like a 12-inch box and then jumping off, then sticking a landing at another hurdle. And it's just this course of, okay, the kid knows where they're going, but it's not bouncy.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, what are we accomplishing now? And then, like you said, it doesn't translate to the spontaneity and the adapting to those unpredictable environments and movements like in sport. And it's crazy. It's everywhere though. And then you have people like you, me, and Jeremy Frisch doing the opposite with younger kids, and people think we're nuts.
Yeah. It's, I think about what it takes for someone to realize that this is not like, why do you not put an 8-year-old on the overspeed treadmill? Why do you not have them doing that? And I think part of it too, there's also the way a child's brain operates. And this is some research I'm doing. Speaking of AI, I've used AI to help me with this research for a course I'm working on. That's all about like the performer athlete relationship and how we train athletics. But to be honest, even adults, and this is, I think, the thing you would go to in some respect, is even an adult is going to have a faster sprint, a higher jump, a cleaner quality of movement if there's something in the environment to go after. Like if you're chasing somebody, your sprint technique is honestly going to usually be a little bit cleaner from a timing perspective than if you just say, do this sprint and now put your hands and legs this way. Having something in the environment cleans it centers our whole system, and it takes us to a part of our brain that it's the performance end of the brain. And children don't have like the intellectual brain the adults do. And so much of the formal training, it's training that really leverages that intellectual part. And the kids just, the part of their brain that you have to leverage is the play base. That's the whole language they understand in training. But to be honest, that's the language. I think the bridge to me is that the best athletes, the elite athletes, they work out of that brain so heavily too. Like it's just no hesitation. They love play and they operate instinctively. And that is really present in kids too. They just don't, they're not physically strong, they're not skilled enough yet, but that's where they come from. And so to me, getting really good at how do we train those, how do we scale up hopscotch? How do we make jump rope more fun and challenging? Those things can also play a part in adult training. It can be how you warm up. Honestly, it's one of the best warm-ups you can possibly do. You will jump higher if you can warm up in an exciting and dynamic and alive way and go do your normal plyos. And to me, that's maybe the bridge that can help people who are so like, my kid has to be jump this high and run this far. And, just so much is revealed. Play is also the revealer. It reveals a lot about you as well and what your child is interested in, because a lot of times that formal training is, well, my kid isn't motivated to be faster, so let's make them do it. And, at those young ages, it's not, I just don't think that's a good strategy. Yeah. So I'll leave it there. I'd be curious what you think of that as well.
Yeah, I agree. And I think kids, they just want training that's new and exciting and engaging. And if it's this rehearsed drill, kind of the same thing, the coach over cueing, the kid loses interest. And when I observe these videos online, I don't know if you and Jeremy have talked about the same thing. The kids usually look miserable.
Yes,
they're not
zombies.
Smiling. Yeah, zombies, just robots. It's just, they don't look like excited about movement. But then when you get a group of kids doing a double Dutch game or a hopscotch race, they're locked in. Mm-hmm. They're smiling, they're bursting out laughing. But more importantly, you're getting the intensity out of them, which is what we want in plyo drills.
Yeah. You're getting more. Yeah, that's the thing too. I think you said it really well, is you're getting, if you want to talk about getting faster and jumping higher, you're getting that through the play. You're not getting it by having a kid hop and stick and just treating it like this robotic series and do this. You're taking them out of the brain, the part of the brain that's their superpower, and you're just making it like totally benign, this training, just so it looks like adult training. But yeah, I think that's the trick, is that it's always the richness that makes all training come to life. And you got me thinking too about so I coach youth soccer, just like rec league, and our league, actually, you can bring a trainer in to run your practice. So for my 7-year-old son's practice, I brought the trainer in, and one of the first games he had the kids do. I love this. I had some adults get involved in this when it was parents versus kids or whatever. But like,
oh, that's fun.
It's a circle of cones. It's called the Tiger and the Hunters or something. But it's like a 20-foot wide, 25-foot wide circle, and then there's a tiger inside running around, and all the other kids are trying to kick their soccer ball and hit the tiger. They're the hunters, and you're trying to hit the tiger. The person who's the tiger, trying to avoid all the soccer balls, like my son was that avoider, tiger first. He jumped maximally, probably like 15 times, trying to avoid the soccer balls. He jumped higher and faster and cleaner than if I would have said, all right, guys, 7-year-olds, we're going to do max skips for height now and really get up there, like
measure your vertical.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it would have been pointless. And honestly, even for 9 or 10-year-olds, I believe that. I think there's this age where that training starts to make sense. And I think it starts to make sense at a different age based on when you're ready to actually train. But in the meantime, it's almost like you could call it tricking kids into being maximally athletic. I think that's okay to say. There's that. It's just it's more athletic than what you think it is, and I think that's a really important thing for people to understand. I love the hopscotch race too, Erica, because have anyone seen that? Like, there's the handles Power Plus. It comes off the Marinovich training system. It's like these little 4 to 8 inch low hurdles, and these athletes are single leg just blasting over it, like pop, pop, pop. Adult athletes, but it's fast, it's explosive. Pro athletes train that way, but it's almost like the hopscotch race is the same thing, but kid appropriate, scale down, scale back. But they're still getting that stimulus. And I just think that stuff is, it's really, really good.
Yeah, there's so many benefits, but I also think the one that a lot of people ignore, and this is what movement and training and youth should be about, is fun.
Yeah.
It's like, why do you want your kid miserable going through these just boring drills, the coach over instructing them? They don't look like they're having fun. And that's what makes me more upset. Like, yes, I get mad about, oh, well, this is not really training plyometrics and coordination and adaptability, but I get upset when kids just don't look happy. So that's my problem with it.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's just funny because it, I guess if you've been through it, it seems very obvious because you've trained athletes and you see the kids who don't look happy, they don't get results. Like they aren't making the progress. And ultimately, they're probably not going to be the kid who loves sport later. Right? Sport is built on a foundation of joy. Like, and that goes for sport and training. I think it's both. And it's almost like we just conflate training. It's like, oh, you got to be like David Goggins and you got to get serious and, disciplined. And yeah, like I agree, but it's, if you look miserable doing it and you're not ready for that, that's the big problem. I do think there's those times later on where, yeah, it's not fun and that's okay. But, the whole thing shouldn't be that way. And there's a time and place, but it's just not the time when those kids are that age.
Yeah, and I think with the fun piece too, you want kids to love working out, like
Hmm.
you said, and compliance leads to success in any
Yeah.
training program. And if they're not having fun young, then what makes parents think they'll want to see a strength coach when they're in high
Oh
school and
yeah.
then in college and for the rest of their career? They're at that point they'll probably just have a bad taste in their mouth because they just never saw training as fun. It was just like you need to go do this and do
Hmm.
these drills. And yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah. It's also kids. You don't want to give kids the impression that sport is someone always telling you what to do and how to do it. Because that's so, if you look at the best athletes later, they're so creative. They love sport. They love creating within sport. And a few people talk sometimes about that, like natural athlete of the past. I love studying people like Pistol Pete Maravich, like dribbling the ball everywhere, changed the college basketball game. I didn't have a skills coach, like Diego Maradona growing up in a poor third world country, like just dribbling all over the place. Like, can you really get that in the modern world? Like if you're always saying do this and do that, and you don't give any room for that type of stuff, it's just like, and even it was a fun, like we came up with a little that little like 5 by 5 yard soccer game that they play in like the streets. It's like street soccer and it's like a real small space. You just have to do, like, we started playing that in my formal dining room that's got nothing in there, just with my kids, just because I'm like, this is way more fun. And in a sense, I'm like, if I want them to develop foot skills, this is the best way for them to do it versus like if I sent them to like some coach to have them dribble around cones or something,
Oh my
like,
gosh, totally. But
yeah,
people don't think that
yeah, yeah,
nowadays. They'd
yeah.
be like, we need to spend $100 an hour for a
Oh,
private skill coach for our 9-year-old daughter. But so you play in the dining room?
yeah. So it's our formal dining room. It's literally, I'm trying to think of how big it is. It's not big. It's like,
What's the floor? Is it wood?
it's carpet, so it's actually
Okay.
perfect. We play barefoot, and
Okay.
that's one other thing I was going to
That's
say.
cool.
I'll just throw this in, Erica, because I almost forgot. Is so much of plyos is made up by foot function. Like if you get someone who has no foot sensation and proprioception, and they've always worn shoes, and I see so many parents who, the second their kids outside, put your shoes on, like don't, yeah, whatever. I get it. You don't want to step on stuff, like, but I mean, my kids have stepped on like a little like sharp thing, and you know what? It's kind of the price you got to pay so you got good feet later. And like, I sound bad, but like, and just like feeling the earth, like feeling the ground under your feet. There's something about, even, talk about like Diego Maradona or like Pele, imagining when he was a kid, and you imagine all the things that were so good about being a kid, the joy of soccer. And I think part of that's just having your feet touching ground, touching grass, and you just can't. That builds the proprioception. You see kids later who are very heavy footed. It's not always just the barefoot. Barefoot isn't like this ultimate panacea. It's going to solve all your problems, but you should have more time doing things barefoot for sure. And so that's a big one. And so, yeah, we play barefoot. I have actually hurt my son's toe a few times, but we've gotten around it. It forces you to have touch though, because if he just like throws a big old kick without precision, he stubbed his toe last night, and he was crying a little bit, but then we got over it, kept playing again, and he's fine. But it teaches you precision too. So you get like sensation, precision, and you have to be careful, but like my son, especially, his ball handling has just skyrocketed just from playing that. And we use a ball, it's real soft, it's gushy, so he can like do all sorts of crazy stuff with it. And I don't want to make this a soccer skills show, but I'm like, that's my go-to for like, just how can we make this thing a game? Like, let's make this thing a game, because I think that's what the best natural athletes have always found ways to do.
Yeah.
And boredom, is the gold that fosters those things. And so, yeah. And, talk about foot and plyometric, my kids are getting good foot stimulation doing that kind of thing. It's going to impact whatever plyos they do later on. And, so yeah, that's sorry, aside. And
I
then,
love
yeah.
it. I love it, Joel. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of barefoot soccer because, like you said, it does teach precision and having a good touch and not holding on to the ball too long. And you have to play
Yeah, yeah,
quick
yeah.
because if you
Mhm.
hold on to it too long, then someone's going to step on you or something's going to hurt with your foot or you're going to stub your toe. Like you want to play quick so you don't put yourself in too much of a contact situation. So it's really interesting. And yeah, like you said, I think it's way more valuable than a 9-year-old going to a skills coach,
Oh,
which
yeah.
I'm sorry, a
Yeah.
lot of parents listening, this is probably going to challenge you guys, but you don't need to do that so young. Just play
Mhm.
in your backyard, barefoot, your dining room, like Joel. I mean, you are going to not only help your daughter improve her touch, but soccer is, and all sports, it's decision making.
Yeah.
Please stop having your kid only do unopposed skill work. It's not transferable enough. It's not optimal. So that to me is also a benefit to all of this gamification because we want kids to learn how to think and be creative.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, and that's why I love that. It's just like, it's so dense, that little living room soccer. Like you are in it. Like you're always, I think that's the thing too. A lot of younger like kids playing soccer, parents like, be more aggressive and blah, blah, blah. It's like, hey, if you're going to play that, yeah, you're going to learn that. Like you can't just tell someone to be aggressive because it's too much chaos. It's like, you're not aggressive when the chaos exceeds your ability to handle it. How do you build your ability to handle it? Not by being yelled at to be more aggressive. That never works. It's by being in an environment where you can start getting into it. It's funny because my daughter, she's probably gonna be more into dance and theater, to be honest, but I think she will play sports. I could see her as more swimming or individual, but she is one of those kids who is not aggressive. And I just know it's just overwhelming. But when we play living room soccer, she's like trying to hip check me. Like she feels safe. She feels safe to express and get into it physically. And it's a place for, I don't think she would feel safe to do that necessarily out in the field. Whereas my son, he's a little bit more, and my youngest, the 1-year-old, she's probably not going to need any of that to be aggressive, but she's feisty already. But yeah, it's also a really safe space to express yourself physically, and parents playing with your kids too. Like that's such a thing that we're so busy and we outsource it, but like it's literally the best. Like it's the highlight of my day. I get distracted from writing programs because I chase my 1-year-old up and down the hall, and she's like laughing and like it's like they're so wired for it, and so yeah, I think, and multi-age too. It's like backyard games with multi-age. The older kids are helping the younger kids. Like my son passes way better when he's playing with older kids because they're just there and he mirrors them, and like we're missing that too. And I don't want to make this a whole environmental soccer thing, but it's like I do think the whole play and the way that I think a lot of the things in sport mirror maybe in the school system, and it's like go in this box, learn this thing, do it how I say, like versus just getting out, mixing ages, playing with your kids, getting barefoot, changing the rules. Like there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah. No, I think that's brilliant. And so for the youth, ages 12 and under, variety of plyos, make it fun, gamify it, hopscotch, jump rope, double dutch, make up your own games,
Hmm.
parents. And yeah, they get so many of those physical benefits that translate to sport, but then you build the relationship with your
Hmm.
kid, you have fun. And yeah, they enjoy doing it too. So I think there's just so many benefits. And you save money on a
Yes.
private
Yes.
private trainer. So
Hmm.
parents who are shelling out like $10,000 a year on
Yeah.
travel sports, there you go, there's the
Mhm.
hack. Okay, let's move on to the older kids. So ages 13 and up, we starting to get into like that late middle
Hmm.
school, high school age group where okay, we have some play under our belt from childhood. Now we can do some more structured and coach plyometrics. So let's get into that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways you can go. I think the ultimate way, in the sense of like the flow of nature, would be, hey, you do soccer, you run track, right? Like you're going to do track and you're going to do your sprint drills and a lot of bouncing. And just by nature of the longer sprints, it's bouncing, and hopefully do the jumps and the hurdles. And all that is plyometric and it's rhythmic. But in terms of like, okay, like just general stuff, like stuff you could do for any sport, I really like what John Garish does, strength coach down in Florida. His series is just, it's so simple. Like the beauty is in the simplicity. And I think that's just the thing where if you're a team sport athlete primarily, and, hopefully multi-sport, but whatever, track or whatever, the simplest things that build off of that whole rich jump rope and hopscotch and all that is skips, gallops, single leg hops. Like that's John's thing. It's like, okay, let's skip for distance, let's skip for height, let's gallop for distance, let's gallop for height. And then let's single leg hop. And I like his progression where he goes 5 single leg hops. So left leg, hop, 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 then jump to your right leg, hop, hop, hop. I think almost everything can be built that a team sport athlete needs for the most part can be built off of that. And then I would also put in some level of like drop landing type activities, just because that is the thing where like you can't get those forces in a game, and learning to slowly accommodate yourself to higher forces through drops is that thing that it's also very general. It's not like, hey, this is specific to high jump in track or specific to another jumping event. It's almost this very general nucleus that can go in a lot of different ways. So that would be just jumping off a box, maybe start with 18 inches. Can you land quietly and silently as the first like thing you're doing? Because that shows you can mitigate forces. Can you jump and spin and land quietly? It's even with my kids. It's funny. They love to jump on the trampoline and they'll jump off. This is another game we play. I just always go to games. I'm sorry. But like I hold a stick and they jump off the trampoline. They have to leap over the stick and land. And I tell them to land like a ninja. And that's literally all I have to say. And then it's like, ping, it's this quiet, nice landing. I'm like, ooh, that's all I had to do. Cool. Like, I don't want to coach them, but I want to make it fun. So it's like they're flying over the stick and landing like a ninja. And so, but that's really important, because if you're landing loudly, there's a lot of passive force. Passive force, I mean, it goes to your skeleton more so. Forces are always going to go to the skeleton. But if your heels are hitting hard, that's going to be right up the shin, right into the knee. And the more you can get really good at more of those silent activities, that gives you opportunity to rehearse that. And so drops and lands on 2 legs, on 1 leg. But then moving forward, this is a big Jeremy Frisch thing, is jump and spin off the box, jump and do a 180, jump and do a 360, because now you're going to be hit with the chaos that's like what's in a game when maybe you're going up for a header and you get knocked a little bit. And so now you have to deal with, okay, I can still hit a nice landing. And I don't think it's completely taught. I was even just thinking of like, and this is an extreme example, but Ronaldo, when he jumps and does that 9-foot 4-inch header and lands on like 1 leg, like crazy. Yeah. I'm sure he never practiced that ever. It was just, he had enough movement options in the system that came naturally to him. But yeah, I do think that a variety of drops and with a silent landing as a first precursor is good. And then I do like this for even high school athletes as parkour drops. I'll put a plate down or a sandbag or something, and I'll put it wherever, like it's 4 feet away from the box, jump in. Can you do a precision landing on this target? And then we'll just keep moving the target, because the goal is adaptability. It's not just, we want to just be really good at depth drops, because that's nice. Like you're going to get more powerful, but you're also a soccer player. You're not the goal isn't to be the world's greatest triple jumper. It's to be adaptable and to spread out the stimulus. And so I really like parkour and like parkour based drops. So where you have to actually land. And sometimes even like the object you land in is small enough that you can only hit your toes on it sometimes. So you have to use certain parts of your foot. And I find doing a lot of that kind of stuff. And if you want to talk about outputs, that could build, like if you want to just jump higher, start your workout with all that adaptable stuff or more adaptable stuff. And then, okay, let's finish off with maybe some more traditional vertical plyometrics. Maybe we do 3 sets of 5 depth jumps from a lower, like a 12 to maybe an 18-inch box or something like that. But starting with the richness and all the dealing with variability, I think is really important, especially for injury prevention and just being an athlete.
Yeah. Now, as far as plyometric programming, what are your thoughts on making it this rigid, linear progression? Or is it just, we're doing like single leg hops and I'm just looking at the quality of the reps of the athlete. And then maybe the next week we just do like side to side single leg hops going forward. Is it just, you're just doing them and there's no like macro plan? Because I've heard different schools of thoughts on this.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think for me, the basics are always the basics, like the skips for height and distance, the gallops for height and distance. To me, that's kind of stuff you just do. If you're doing a speed training day, you just do it as part of your speed training day. It doesn't,
Just warm
it'll,
up.
yeah, it'll scale up as you improve. But yeah, I don't necessarily think you need, I always look at, like if I use all those skips and hops and single leg jumps and that's in the warm up, but then my main workouts, like let's say it's some flying 10 sprints or some 40-yard dashes or something, the the big thing is going to encapsulate all the little things. So it's kind of like all those little things I did, the biggest, the time sprint, the racing sprints, those are always more stimulating. They always recruit more muscles. They're going to be the biggest training effect. And honestly, in terms of playing the game, it's probably a little more important too, because you don't skip to the ball. You don't gallop, you run to the ball. And so, but what those things give you, if you're a soccer player, is it gives you a little bit more vertical bounce. If you have more vertical bounce and your feet are stronger, you can run with a little bit more vertical force, which is good. It actually doesn't necessarily make you faster, which the research is showing, but it makes you run better, I believe. And it probably in a way that could limit some injury issues, maybe with some hamstrings. But what foot strength also gives you, it actually gives you better leverage for change of direction. And there's also foot strength you can build in the weight room, but I believe that just the foot strength by some repeat hops, single leg hops, skips, and gallops. I think that's helpful, but that's also preceded by, hopefully you did a lot of low intensity hopscotch and jump rope and all those things when you were younger. And because if you did, you know those kids who are just bouncy. They don't need to keep doing all this jump rope and extensive. In my opinion, they have it. It's there. So they pass third grade and they're on to fourth grade and fifth grade and sixth grade. And because everything they do in a skip, hop, gallop, it keeps training that pathway of all the jump roping and stuff. You don't need to keep necessarily revisiting that a lot. Mm-hmm. So anyways, my opinion is more, you just do some of those skips, hops, and those things as kind of this is just part of the warm up. You treat it like a skips. And then the big stuff you do, like the sprints, it kind of, it's going to be in there. It kind of almost gets suctioned into that. That makes sense. And it might be a little bit of a complicated way of saying, but I think it's simple, because the simplicity is the biggest thing you did on the day kind of works off everything else in the program. And I think we live in a world where we have to max out everything sometimes. Like we're going to max out our plyos, we're going to max out our lifts, we're going to max out our sprints. I think in team sport, the game, running in the game is always the most intense thing you can do. Like chasing somebody down is the most intense, stimulating thing. And so everything we do is so the athlete can use everything in that thing. If that makes sense, versus like almost sectioning training off into all these little different categories. I like, well, the Pistol Pete and Maradona and like all these, elite athletes of the past, it's just you played and everything got pulled into the greater thing that you're doing, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. So do you think more traditional strength and conditioning programs should include more plyometrics?
That's a good question. I do think, this is my opinion, I think strength and conditioning can very easily get excessive with things that can quickly become unathletic, if that makes sense. Like, and it's almost can be and this is, we're talking about more like, to me, this is more like advanced high school. Like this is once in college, it's because now it's like we have a coach for everything. And it's like, you're going to go to this coach and you're going to get da 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 da, and you're going to go to this coach and get da 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 da. And it's my opinion that the best movers, they love their sport. They have joy and they're always creating. And Rachel Balkovic told me once, she's like a manager for, I think, I forget what team she's at now. She
was the Yankees, but I forget where she's at now.
Yeah. Well, she had said she was the strength coach and then she was the hitting coach and now she's a manager, which is amazing. And she had said when she became the hitting coach, she's like, these players are all of a sudden way more interested in all this stuff. And you need to lift to stay healthy and fit the physical demands of your game, and young athletes need to get stronger. So I 100% am all on board with that. But I think where I'm trying to go is more, we don't want to major in the minors. Like we don't want to take the strength training that's really critical, important, of the plyos, and we don't want to major in that if we're going to be an athlete on the field. We always want to have that spirit of problem solving and aliveness. and that kind of thing for me. So I just think that it's interesting because it's like, because there's so many sections, the sport has been splintered off in a lot of different sections. It's just very easy to be like, this is my area. We're going to do everything here. We are going to do all the this, that, and the other thing. And I just think finding a simple core is really good. Sorry, I know we're probably running out of time. I'm like going to shore my answer up here. So,
what do most people get wrong about plyometrics? Like even just sports parents or the training programs their child is doing, what could go wrong with plyometrics, and when are we not really training them?
yeah, that's a good contrast to the last complicated direction I was taking my last answer. So just to me, it's just too much. And that's the common complaint, even among strength coaches. It's too much plyos, too much volume. And I would say too much volume in things that are a long contact time. Like if you watch an athlete who's not prepared to do hurdle hops, they're going to be kind of clunky on the ground. They're too long on the ground. And that's why I love the skips, hops, and gallops, because everything is crisp. You cannot lose because everything by nature, a skip for distance, you can't be long on the ground. It's going to be that quick, crisp reversal of energy. So, and even a single leg hopping too, as long as you're saying, like, that's why I think John had short single leg hops to a long, not as far as you can, which you could do, but I wouldn't do that all the time. So I would just say it's too much, and too much stuff where athletes are hitting the ground poorly, just too high of volumes. With plyos, because sport is plyometric, your best bet is less is more. Start with things that are crisp and clean and rhythmic, and then infuse that into the sprints and everything else you're doing. I think that's a really good place to start. And also just being alive with the drops and different types of drops. The last thing I'll say with the mistake is, too robotic. Do it like this. Snap your arms down. Have your knees lined up this way. I think we don't really retain that super well, because if the body wants to do something, it's trying to do it for a reason. So let's find out why the body's wanting to do that. And if someone has trouble banging their knees together on a hurdle hop, which isn't great, like that's probably not good, maybe we can feed them more variability, different types of plyos, to lateral plyos, multidirectional plyos to round them out, versus insisting they do this one plyo just like this. And again, that's rooted in play as well. So I'm always going back to that.
I actually saw something interesting the other day. It was like the performance of the athlete dictates the plyo drill, not the other way around. And like you said, the kids shouldn't be doing plyos they're not ready for and they can't be bouncy with. But too often coaches get stuck in that box. We have to do this plyo because it's what we're doing today. But like you said, the kid's like clunky on the ground. It's not twitchy anymore. So I really like that the performance dictates the drill that should be selected for that kid.
Yeah, I agree. And that's why I just love, again, I just love John's simplicity with that.
It's so good.
It's just because you can't outrun it. Like if you are not fast and clunky, as long as you start with like your skip, you can't really mess up skipping. I'll just say that. Like it's hard to there's so many kids who aren't good at it, but they're not going to be like hitting themselves with forces they're not ready for, which is the problem. It's more like skip, and over time you're going to get smoother and you're going to move better, and that's the prerequisite for anything more advanced. And then, all right, let's skip for distance, let's skip for height. The single leg hops are what can be more. You can have kids go a little farther on those, but it's just all this start that is very scaling up slowly and steadily. And it's hard to do skips and gallops and some low level single leg hops wrong, really.
Yeah. Well, I think this really cleared things up as far as plyometrics, and I'm sure we'll have you back on again to maybe dive into more or talk more about play, since that seems to be what we kept returning back to in this discussion. So thank you, Joel, for coming on, and I'll see everyone next time.